2014, 2015, so Happy New Year. And I brought you to a very secret spot, which I'm gonna tell you about in a moment. But first of all, if you are new or haven't yet subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe here for all the good stuff coming in this new year. And if you have been following along, make sure you get your questions in the comments, because section or episode 12 is gonna be the Q&A episode. So whatever your questions are around my business for 2015, what do I want to achieve? What are the biggest blocks that are stopping me? What are the biggest questions that would, just by getting answers to it, really shift my own thinking and my own path forward this coming year? Make sure you put them down and we will get to them in the coming episode. So, where are we? We are in the very first restaurant that I was recommended to when I got here in Bali over 10 years ago. My friends in Jimbaran, when I got here, they said, you have to come to this spot if you really want to get to know what Bali is all about. But look, it's gone. I mean, it's just full of all of this total graffitied wreckage now from a place which was just the most beautiful spot when I got here 10 years ago. And this is really all about how, as we go into a new year, everything changes. Everything changes. Whatever is the most popular product will change. Whoever are the people who are the most successful, they will change. And you also will change. The question is how, and how well. Because a lot of people think they change through their goals. It's why people set New Year's resolutions, which a lot of people don't think work. And the reason I don't think they work is because we get excited by putting them out there and they stretch us. But then when we don't reach them, then we just get frustrated. So why is it that so many of us think goals are the secret to success, when in fact it's the opposite that are the secret to success, the secret to us growing our flow? Well, that's what this episode is all about. So if you haven't watched the last episode where I talk about how passion can be a danger if it's done in the wrong way, go watch that session here, because that is pinpointing your passion. It is the first step going from red to orange level, which is when you're going positive cash flow personally, which allows your business to also go positive as well. This episode is all about the second step, which is all about setting your standards. So what's a standard? A standard is the opposite of a goal. So think about a goal like the ceiling, right? So here's the ceiling up here. And if I wanted to kind of reach for a goal, it's high up, it's something I haven't reached before, well then it can feel good reaching, right? It's like, this feels good, I'm stretching myself, until you don't get there. So a lot of us, we live a trampoline life, because what happens is we have big goals, we jump, and then we fall back down to the same place again. So what is a standard? A standard is the opposite. It's not what your arms are reaching for, it's what your legs are settling for. It's what you settle for. So for example, we've got stairs here, nicely graffitied. Oh, this is such a shame. So if we go to the steps and I was to just kind of like step up, just a little step, I'm gonna suddenly say things that I was settling for, I'm no longer gonna settle for anymore. I'm gonna raise my standards. I'm gonna do it again, like the next week, the next month, I'm gonna do it again. All the way through the year, I'm just taking little small steps, which just take me higher and higher, until eventually I'm close enough to the ceiling that without even trying, I can reach the ceiling. And this is all about raising your standards. So successful people aren't the one with the biggest goals. Successful people are the one with the highest standards. And we can all change our standards. That's the beauty of it. Because for a lot of us with goals, we set a goal and it's gonna take us a long time to get there. But when it comes to our standards, standards are measurable and they're immediately attainable. You can actually make it happen today when we shift the standards. So what do I mean by a standard? There's 4 different types of standards. The first one's about your time. So there's a pretty good chance that the reason you're not achieving all the things you want to achieve right now is that your time is designed in such a way that you may be doing certain things with your time that people who are already achieving your goals wouldn't dream of doing with their time. Maybe too much time on the internet, too much time on TV, too much time doing things which are actually not serving you. And these are all kind of like, if you were to get a sheet of paper and put down on the left list, what would be 5 things I would do differently where I would raise my standards? So for example, what are the 5 biggest things you're doing with your time right now which aren't serving you? Maybe it's watching TV. So you say, okay, so right now, every week I spend 8 hours watching TV. I'm going to no longer settle for that. I'll make it 4 hours. Okay, so now you've made a shift and you now say, well, extra 4 hours. You have the other side of your sheet of paper where you're saying, and what I'm gonna do with my time now, as well as having things I'm no longer gonna settle for, I'm gonna have new things that I'm now raising my standards to. I'll spend 4 hours going out and connecting with people who are gonna help me with my business. I'll put 4 hours into educating myself more in areas that are gonna help me. You can see how pretty quickly, just by shifting your standards and your time, it can transform the ability for you to be able to achieve far more every day and every week, just as someone who is the person you're going to become would want to do anyway. Second thing is your environment. Environment is all about the places you are that empower you. I've talked about environments in the past, and you can go and watch the video, which is all about that here. And the third one is your attitude, which is to what extent are you filling yourself with negative thoughts, all the things that clearly aren't going to serve you to get to where you want to get to. And to what extent are you actually changing your thinking and coming up with new attitudes, not just to yourself, but to the people you're going to be working with as well. And the final thing is money. The fourth one is money, which is, are you actually set in such a way that you set the right standards for your money? What would be some things you'll no longer settle for? I'm not going to spend it wildly doing this or doing that. I'm going to invest more doing this or doing that. Like when you actually set these and just having just a couple of standards every single month that you're going to just switch to say, this is what I'm no longer going to settle for, and these are the new ones that I'm going to be achieving. And imagine that person who's already achieved all the goals that you have. What do you think their standards would be like in those 4 areas? Time, environment, attitude, and money. TEAM. What happens is, by you setting this for yourself first, your mirror and your team becomes, your business and your team becomes a mirror for this. And this is one of the most important key aspects, is you'll only attract a team which has the same standards as you. Yeah, I want to give you just 2 examples, and I want to share with you 2 examples of this in action. Then I want to share with you why I brought you up here. The first one would be someone called Emma Caldwell, who I met recently, and when she came out to Bali, at that point she was just starting her career as a photographer. And she really got that she didn't want to be a fashion photographer, which was where she was going down the line. She wanted to be someone making a difference in the world. She believed in the future of the big cats, like the tigers and the lions. And so she created this project called Changing Spots. And she said she's going to live in Bali, change her environment totally. I have no idea how. She just said, that's my standards. I won't settle for less. She went back to Australia and she told her friends, her family, that's what she was going to do. And before she knew it, someone gave her a referral to someone in Bali who gave her a job to be able to do exactly what she was doing using her photography skills, but now in a place where she really wanted to be using them in Bali. And she made that shift with such ease. I'm not saying it's easy for everyone, but with such ease based on her just saying, I won't settle for less. Second example, this is a higher up, not going from that was more of an orange level, working for a living and then realizing you can shift out of it by just saying, I'm not going to settle for that anymore. And the second one is someone I met just last month, Brian Walsh. Brian Walsh, he runs a organization called entrepreneurs.co.za in South Africa. And he came out to visit me because I'm going to South Africa in February. And when he shared his story about how he'd been following my work, he'd been following DeMartini's work, but his standards were always lower. And it's only when he said, I've got to stop thinking in thousands, start thinking in tens of thousands, that he suddenly found that his Facebook promotions changed. He found that the way that he went about bringing people into events transformed. And he was starting to get tens of thousands of people every year coming to his events. And then he invited me to come along and be part of that as well, which is why I'm going out there in February. In both cases, whether it's Emma with her employer, whether it is Brian with me, there is someone out there right now who needs the future person you're going to be. So everything changes, you change. And the key thing is, how could you make that shift so that as some things crumble and disappear, others around us open up and new opportunities rise that weren't even there before. It happens by just stepping up one at a time. And the benefit isn't even just that you get to the flow you want. You actually see flow differently. So you have a look at this. While we have over here this old ramshackle restaurant, this is the reason it became so successful. Because we're looking down over Uluwatu, which is a famous surf beach here in Bali. So we're up in the Bukit right now. I'll try and get up without falling over here. You can see it's a pretty amazing view from up here. And the sun's about to set. So there's the sunset about to go down. And I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting about what happens when you get to altitude, which is what setting your standards are all about. Why am I higher than those people there? It's not because I'm taller than them, it's because I'm in a much higher spot in terms of where my feet are. And when you do that, when you actually start lifting yourself up, all that flow turns into patterns. Like those waves, if you're down there, they're big waves. Those are big surf waves. You can see some tiny little people out there right now. You can hardly probably even see them in the video here. But if you were down there, you'd be buffeted by the waves. It's really easy when you're right down at sea level to get thrown in all different directions and be overwhelmed by life. The moment you start lifting yourself up to higher altitude, then it's amazing how you suddenly see flow for what it really is. It's all part of a natural system, and it's all part of a year ahead where you can transform what you're doing, where you are, to be able to have the most incredible year that you've ever had. And with that being said, that's my wish for you. I'm now going to leave you with the sunset, and we'll catch up with you on the next episode.